Welcome to the Campfire Podcast. Hello, everyone. This is the Campfire Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the Nephilim of Genesis 6. And before we get into the topic, I'm going to summarize what we're going to go through. And I'm going to read Genesis 6, 1 through 8. It says, "Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of man, that they are beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that the intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." So in this episode, we're going to be focusing on verses 1 through 4, and we're going to be asking questions about who the sons of God are, where do they come from, did God create them, are they men or are they angels, spiritual beings, and we're also going to be focusing on to the main point of this passage, which is the depravity of man and how our sin grieves the heart of God. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this episode. But before we get into that and Isaiah drops all of his knowledge on us, we're going to have Festin just say thank you to some people, shout them out for the work they've been putting in for us.
All right, so I think the first shout out, the only shout out for this episode goes to Amanda Henley. Not to be confused here, only Amanda Henley gets the shout out because she's been reposting our episodes and getting the word out there, pushing us out there. I know some of you have been doing, some of you are doing, but Amanda's been doing it consistently. Every week, and it's good to get the support. Yeah.
She's on another level. I personally, my mom was offended when I said she's our number one fan, but I showed her how to repost on her story when she didn't know how to do. So Amanda may have some competition, but
she
remembers.
I think right now Amanda is our number one supporter.
That's true.
We'll give it out there. We know you guys love us, but Amanda's been doing the most. So shout out Amanda Henley. We thank you and we love you from the Campfire Podcast. Everyone, I think everybody loves you.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Oh, maybe not that.
he giggled and he said, "Yeah."
Okay. All right, and then the next shout out is we have two songs that were made by our dear friend Carter, who is dropping his album today too, right? What's the
Where's My Dog?
Where's My Dog?
Have you seen my dog?
Have you seen My Dog?
It's a country album.
Yeah, it's a country album. How old is he?
16, and you can find him on Spotify. IKEA Hat Guy Sings or something like that.
All right, yeah, you can find it
if you
somewhere.
want to listen.
Yeah, we'll probably post his album on our Instagram, and then so here's the songs that Carter made for us.
Campfire Podcast sells fire like my dad making pizza. Festin, Isaiah, Riley, and Xander talk for 40 minutes. Jesus loves you. Follow our podcast.
All right, that's the first song, but I think the next one is my favorite because it's got the hip-hop-y feel to it.
Campfire Podcast gets really hot, especially when Isaiah's on. Jesus loves you.
So,
Dude, those are good.
this song is befitting for today because Carter said, Campfire Podcast, I don't know what he said next.
Gets really hot.
Gets really hot, especially when Isaiah's on. And today's topic is Isaiah's favorite topic to talk about, I think. Right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so it is getting hot in here. But let's get into it. Isaiah,
Festin.
Genesis 6.
All right. So
before you start getting into it, what's the question I think should be, what do you think is exciting? What gets you what do you think is more interesting to you in this? What
intrigues me about this?
Yeah.
What makes me want to talk about it?
Yeah, why do you want to talk about it so bad? because you told us you've been reading 2 books at once.
Yeah.
Just to prepare for this one.
I-
And you've been reading the Bible too. Let's not. So you've been reading the Bible and 2 other books. So let's tell us.
So I think the thing that intrigues me about this passage is mostly Genesis 6, 1 through 4. And, it talks about sons of God coming down to the daughters of men, and then there was giants, right? It talks about how there's giants. And then if you look in the King James Version, it uses the word Nephilim instead of giant, which Nephilim in the Hebrew translates to giant or fallen one. So I think that's what intrigues me the most, is that it just kind of like name drops giants and then just moves on like it's not really a big deal.
Okay. So you like, do you think these fallen giants were like handsome, long hair, like blue eyes?
I think that well,
Ooh, I got him speechless.
no. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
I just wanted to see if you're one
Why,
of them.
you think you're one of them?
I think you. I was
you think I am
thinking
one of them?
you.
Okay.
Because I don't know, Bigfoot, long
Sanders
hair.
taller than I am, though.
Let's not bring Xander into
He's
this.
taller than I am, though. So, I mean, just say.
I mean, look at him. He's a specimen. But right
He's
now
a
we're talking about.
He's a
what?
Filipino Greek god.
Yeah, he's a Filipino Greek god. All right, so Isaiah, let's tell us about Genesis 6 and like what do you think the essence of the verses that you mentioned are all about?
Okay, so let's see. I think it's Genesis. What verse is it? When it talks about the sons of God in Genesis 6:2, it says the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and there's 2 main viewpoints on the sons of God, like who the sons of God are, what they are. The first one is like the Sethite theory, where they think the sons of God were the sons of Seth, and Seth was the son born to Adam and Eve after Cain killed Abel and was kind of kicked out and he left. So some people think the sons of God are referring to the sons of Seth, and then that the daughters of men at that point were the offspring of Cain. So it would have been like here's like the good sons of Adam, like the good bloodline of Adam, and then the evil bloodline of Adam, and they're like cross, producing and corrupting it, which I don't necessarily agree with, because it doesn't ever say anywhere in the Bible that the sons of God are the sons of Seth.
Okay.
Because if you go to, Job 1:6, it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan was also among them." And it also references the sons of God many other times in the Bible, and they're never referring to sons of Seth or even men. Most of the time they're referring to angelic beings or spiritual beings. So in my opinion is that the sons of God were angelic beings or angels that came down to the daughters of men and reproduced with them and had the giants or the Nephilim.
Okay, so on the fallen, before you continue, I was listening. I don't listen, like, you guys put me on the Blurry Creatures.
Have you been listening to it?
I only listened to the Genesis 6 one with Tim Alberino, if that's how you say his name, right?
Yeah.
And something that he talked about is like when you say like the sons of God looked at the daughters of man and said, "We want that."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Like they were jealous of what us as humans had. Like we had that relationship.
Yeah.
Between a man and a woman, and that's something that they.
And then
desired.
that turned into great. Like we want to get it. We
like
want.
they were having lustful sin, pride. Like they wanted. They were coveting what we as humans have.
Yeah.
Saying, "I want some of that." Like,
yeah. So and then just like, I think. Before we get into this, because I think, like Riley said, this is like, for most people, when they read Genesis 6, they're not like, oh, dang, there's giants and stuff like that. Maybe you are, but for most people, they're not. So talk about, like, I think before we get into, like, all these things, then we want to talk about that, like, lustful sin, like that greedy, that pride of, like, we want to have what those guys have, and like how that.
I think it also shows that the angels aren't like perfect beings. Like they also have free will to where they can, follow God, or they can say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. And I think that...
And they go to hell because they did whatever the heck they want, so they go to hell. You can say that. I heard someone said, who said it? I was like, I'm going to say that. And now I was like, what the heck? I was like, oh, I'm going to use that now. It's like, one time I said it.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, continue.
We're going to have to bleep any of that out.
I hope not, because...
This makes it look like fashion swearing.
Oh, I already told some people that I'm swearing on this. All right, so continue.
What was your question?
Yeah, I just wanted, I think it's very important to point out, like these things did not just happen. This is like a sin. This is just like they came and they saw from above, like, we want that. That's not just like, that's not normal. That's a sin, right?
So is sin not normal, though?
That's not normal. So sin is not normal. Like, it's not the right thing to do. That's that's my point. Okay. So they saw what we, like, I wasn't there in that time, but they saw what they had.
I thought you were really old.
I am really old. I feel like a grandpa sitting with you kids up here. You see all these things and like you read it and then it's like all these things they did is what grieved God's heart. It's like he regretted making us.
I think another interesting thing is like they're defiling his creation, right? Yeah. By creating things that like shouldn't really be there.
Yeah, so like, Tim Alberino said like they wanted to make hybrids to take over the world. So I don't know if you're gonna touch into that. So I'll just let you run with it. Because I thought that was
we'll see how deep we go with this thing, how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Go as deep as you want to.
The rabbit hole goes very deep, but we'll see how far we go.
All right. You do you. Come on, move on. Let's run with it.
He's got notes, man. Look at,
Why are you looking at another man's notes, dude?
So there's extra biblical text that is not in the Bible, obviously, but the people back in those days knew what they had context for it, right? I think that's why Genesis 6 kind of just briefly skims over the fact that, there's just giants, okay, moving on, because I think the people that were writing, or the person that was writing this, expects you to have context and know kind of what he's talking about already, and feels like he doesn't have to reiterate or re-explain things. And so there is, in the book of Enoch, which is an extra biblical text that didn't make it into the Bible, but in my opinion, I think it is credible and lines up with the Bible very well. Mostly because there is nothing that contradicts anything that's in the Bible, and there are people that are in the Bible that reference this book. No, I'm not saying this is 100% true. This is just what I believe. And obviously it's not in the Bible. I personally think it didn't make it into the Bible because it's more like context than having to do anything with your salvation. Like, you're not going to read the book of Enoch and be like, okay, cool, I'm saved now. I think it just gives context to things that were happening in those days. And if you go to Jude 14 and 15, it's a direct pull from the book of Enoch. He's quoting the book of Enoch right there. And he's pulling basically word for word what is said. And in Jude 14:15 it says, "It was also about these that Enoch in the 7th generation from Adam prophesied, saying, 'See, the Lord is coming with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict everyone of all the deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him.'" And then in Enoch 1:9 it says, "Behold, he comes with the myriads of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to destroy all the wicked and to convict all flesh for all the wicked deeds that they have done and the proud and harsh words that the wicked sinners spoke against him." Any thoughts?
Can you read it again?
Which one, both of them, or?
Yeah, trying to figure out these surf plans I have after this. But this is important too right now.
He's multitasking.
He's never good at multitasking.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So in Jude 14:15 or 14 through 15, it says, "It was also about these that Enoch in the 7th generation from Adam prophesied, saying, 'See, the Lord is coming with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict everyone of all the deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him.'" And then in Enoch 1:9 it says, "Behold, he comes with myriads of his holy ones to execute judgment on all, and to destroy all the wicked, and to convict all flesh for all the wicked deeds they have done, and the proud and hard words that wicked sinners spoke against him."
So the book of Enoch, from what I've heard about it, is pretty much what Isaiah said. It can give a lot of context for biblical events that the Bible just skims over. And like when we went through Jude on young adults a couple weeks ago, when Feston kind of taught through it, it was really cool because Jude is such a small book, but there's a handful of things in these references to the Old Testament, like about Sodom and Gomorrah and angels and Enoch and things like that. I think Isaiah nailed it, where the biblical writers are expecting us to like really want to understand the context and not just take things at face value. So I'm interested in the book of Enoch. I don't know if I would go as far to say like it doesn't contradict the Bible. I've heard some people say it does, but I know there's a copy that Blurry Creatures published that that they have about the book of Enoch.
Are you gonna get it?
I want to get it, but there's 3 books of Enoch, but the one that is referenced the most is First Enoch, right? Yeah. And then is it the other is Second and Third Enoch? Those are the ones that kind of get a little wild.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, First Enoch. If someone wants to buy that for me. Last time I said I want this, someone bought it for me. So
Riley kind of gets whatever.
If it works
wants,
again,
so.
That's great.
So a few questions that might arise from this, like when people listen to this, right? Just to clarify, when it says sons of God, you think it's talking about angelic beings?
Because I do think that, and the reason I think that is because every other time in the Bible when it's talking about sons of God, it's never referring to humans.
Okay. And then when it says daughters of men, it's talking about...
I think that's talking about, like, human women.
Okay. Just a clarification on these things. And then the giants. Do you think with their hybrids of, like, they...
So I think they were hybrids of, angelic beings and human. But I think they probably looked pretty similar to us. They were just bigger, stronger, faster.
Just like you, then.
But I'm not a giant. I'm not even 6 foot.
You're bigger, you're stronger,
I'm
you're
not
faster.
even 6
You're
foot.
handsomer.
That's not a word. I'm not even 6 foot, Feston, okay?
Is Alexa taller than you?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted you to say yeah to that question. So, like, you're reading Genesis 6. Like you get the Nephilim. Like I'm hoping you're gonna mention all these things. But do you think? And another thing too is like, do you think what you call it? Goliath.
Goliath?
Oh,
Do you think he was an offspring?
I think he was. I can read. I have the part of 1 Samuel where it talks about Goliath. I can read that.
Okay. Also, when the spies went in to go see.
That written
Okay,
down.
so just talk about this.
All right, so
should we just let him loose?
I'm trying to let him loose, but
it helps.
He's a little hesitant.
It
Yeah.
helps sometimes when you ask questions because
Okay.
it gets my gears turning.
it's supposed to be your brain rolling.
Well, there's gears in my brain. So,
There is.
yeah,
In your ears too, right?
sure.
Okay. We're letting you loose.
Okay.
Go with it.
So in Numbers 13:31 through 33, it says, "But the men had gone up with him and said, 'We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are.' And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, 'The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them.'" So that is talking about right before the Israelites were going to enter the Promised Land, and they sent scouts out to investigate the Promised Land before all the people entered, and that was the report they brought back. I think that's another indication that there were giants, right? And it even says in verse 33, "We saw the Nephilim there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them."
Imagine something being so giant that, like, I don't think these like spies were like small people. I don't think they're like my
Like
height.
midgets?
I don't think they're midgets, but like imagine
Were they
someone.
taller than Mike?
Dude, that would be a cool movie. Spy midgets. Like,
Well, maybe you can make it with your nieces. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy that like these things
And
happen.
this is like in the Bible. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times Christians say that like they don't believe in supernatural things. Like I've heard that quite a few times, and it kind of baffles me sometimes because I'm like, have you read the Bible? Like, there's not only giants. There's like it talks about angels, demons, fallen angels, and then there's Jesus. Like, dude's raising people from the dead. Like, I feel like that's all pretty supernatural to me.
Yeah.
I have something to touch on that. If
Yeah, go for it.
that's later or if that's now.
That's
But,
after Isaiah.
I can read First Samuel and talk about Goliath before or after, either way.
So, the question that arises in my mind is these, the sons of God, and how they were able to come down in a physical body and actually reproduce with the daughters of man. The daughters of man. And then I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser, and he goes into like the angels, the spiritual beings, the differences between like cherubims, stuff like that. And so people will say that it's impossible for angels to sexually reproduce, and they take that from Matthew 22:23 through 33. And so it says, on that day the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came up to him and asked him, saying, Teacher, Moses said if that someone dies without having children, his brother is to marry his wife and father descendants for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers with us, and the first died after getting married. Because he did not have any descendants, he left his wife to his brother. So also the second and the third, up to the 7th. And last of all, the woman died. In the resurrection, these Sadducees, they don't believe in the resurrection either.
Sadducee.
Yeah.
Okay, my headmaster used to say like, like these Sadducees are so sad. It's like Sadducees.
So I don't know. It's weird. It's like, why are they trying to trip Jesus up on something they don't even believe?
Because they're sad. You see.
They say in the resurrection, therefore, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they all had her as wife. But Jesus answered and said to them, You are mistaken, because you do not know the Scriptures or the power of God. For in the resurrection they will neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels of God in heaven. Now concerning the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God, who said, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. And the crowds heard this, and they were amazed. So people take it from verse 30, when it says in the resurrection, we're not going to be marrying or giving in marriage, but we're going to be like the angels. So they're going to interpret that as, since the angels don't get married, then there's no way for them to reproduce. But Heiser goes on to say, and he says, the text does not say angels cannot have sexual intercourse. It says they don't. The reason ought to be obvious. The context for this statement is the resurrection, which refers either broadly to the afterlife or more precisely to the final renewed global Eden. The point is clear in either option. In the spiritual world, the realm of divine beings, there is no need for procreation. So, speaking about in heaven, there's no need for procreation. Procreation is the embodied world and is necessary to maintain the physical population. In like manner, life in the perfected Edenic world also does not require maintaining human species by having children. Everyone has an immortal resurrection body. Consequently, there is no need for sex in the resurrection, just as there is no need for it in non-human spiritual realm. But Genesis 6 doesn't have the spiritual realm or the final Edenic world as its context. The analogy breaks down completely. The passage in Matthew is therefore a useless commentary on Genesis 6, 1 through 4. Despite the flawed use of this gospel passage, Christians still balk at this interpretive option for Genesis 6, 1 through 4. The ancient reader would have had no problem with it, but for moderns, it seems impossible that a divine being could assume human flesh and do what this passage describes. The objection is odd, but since the interpretation is less dramatic than the incarnation of Yahweh as Jesus Christ, how is the virgin birth of God as a man more acceptable? Why isn't it mind-blowing about Jesus having both a divine and human nature fused together? For that matter, what doesn't offend the modern scientific mind about God going through a woman's birth canal and enduring life as a human, having to learn how to talk, walk, eat with a spoon, be potty trained, and go through puberty? All these things are far more shocking than Genesis 6, 1 through 4, and yet this is what Scripture explicitly affirms when it informs us that the second person of the Godhead became a man. God became a man from conception onward. So, when it talks about the angels having an actual physical body, whether that's how they are or they're able to take on that form of flesh, it gives a bunch of examples in Genesis 18 and 19. Yahweh himself and two other beings met with Abraham in physical flesh. They ate a meal together. And then Genesis 19:10, it talks about the angels having to physically grab Lot and pull him back into his house to avoid the harm in Sodom. In Genesis 32, Jacob wrestled with a man whom the text also describes as Elohim twice, Elohim meaning like a spiritual being. So, and I love the point of what Heiser said too, because our Christianity and our faith like hangs on the balance that Jesus is God and that he became man, that we accept it so easily. But when we think about God going through the birth canal of a human woman, like that doesn't necessarily blow our mind, but it blows our mind that God's creation, spiritual beings, can assume physical flesh and procreate when God became a man. I don't know. I see that as a contradiction in people's beliefs. And obviously, the giants in Genesis 6 do not compare to the story of the gospel. It has nothing to do with your salvation. But there's a truth behind it.
Can you say that again? Because like people, I think like I've heard other people like, well, that doesn't like pertain. I don't know what the word
pertain.
Yeah, like I don't know if that means the word I was trying to use.
Pertain. It's like it doesn't really add value.
That doesn't
significant value.
Yeah, like that doesn't have any significance on my salvation. Yes, you're right. It does not. And like we talk about these things within the Bible, and the interesting things to talk about doesn't mean we only have to talk about one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, like
we can talk about other things that do not pertain to our salvation. And they're fun to talk about. They're exciting because God put these things in the Bible for us to look at.
It's in there for a reason. They didn't just put it in there to put it in there.
Yeah. So the gospel story about God wanting to bring us back into his family and that sacrifice, the gospel story isn't about us, but it's about what Jesus has done for us. So that takes precedent over everything in the Bible. And you can see the Bible from the Old Testament to the New Testament leading up to this covenant, this new covenant that God has given. But there's also things for me and Isaiah we're like really similar in what we're interested in and what we like to talk about and things like that.
Creatine, protein.
Yeah. Gym, giants.
Nephilim.
I don't do steroids.
I don't know another G, but it'd be good if I came up with another G. Gym, giants, and girls. If we found girls, I don't know. Could be that. Who knows?
Girls, how many do you want?
Well, two. One for me, one for Isaiah.
Oh.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not.
Let's not get into that because
triple
I
Gs.
have some thoughts on that. But
So, like for me and Isaiah, stuff like this has really grown our faith and our interest in the Bible because so many people can gloss over it, but there's a truth behind it that excites both of us. So this book, the book that Isaiah has that Heiser also wrote, and
It's called Reversing Herman. I would recommend it.
Yeah, just talking about more so the biblical the biblical context and how people can ignorantly use other passages in the Bible to try to disprove something. And I don't think that necessarily always comes from bad intentions, but people are searching for the truth. But sometimes when you're searching for the truth, you're not searching in all the right places, but God knows our hearts. So that's what I wanted to touch on is the actual physicality of the angels, not that just it's a possibility, but that it's a reality and it's confirmed in other parts of the Bible.
Yeah. Okay, so
Something I want to go back to is I just realized we never really explained what the Book of Enoch is and why it matters on this
a
situation.
lot of people talk about it.
I know, but we have to act like people don't know what we're saying.
I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, do you know what the Book of Enoch is, Feston?
No, I just said I don't know.
Okay, cool. So the Book of Enoch is one of the Dead Sea Scrolls they found. And the reason that a lot of people use it when talking about Genesis 6:4 is because it's basically, at least the first Book of Enoch is basically Genesis 6:4, but it's like the whole book. It doesn't just skim over it. It like goes deeper into it. And it talks more about the angels coming into the daughters of men and reproducing. And that's basically what the whole Book of Enoch is talking more about that side.
Okay. So before we continue, let's look at verse 3
Of Genesis 6.
Yeah, because I think it gives the essence of what like Genesis 6 is all about.
That's your new word for the day, dude. Essence.
Oh,
Mine's goat, his is essence.
essence. It gives the essence of what Genesis 6 is all about. Because I'll say this word just for Riley's mom. Because like.
Oh. My mom was saying you say like way too much.
Okay, I'll say this for Isaiah and Riley's mom. Like we're saying like. Anyway, but like, okay. So in Genesis 6:3 says, "Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for his flesh, his days shall be 120 years." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Before then, it was interesting because people, like Adam lived like 900 something years. Like all these people beforehand are living like hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, almost 1,000 years. That'd be gnarly.
Like what would you do with that amount of time?
he's just walking the car.
Like, if I'm as smart as I am now, imagine me living almost 900 years.
Do you believe that statement he just came out
It'd
of
be
your
like
mouth?
you times like.
With all my heart.
Okay, good. So I think that gives us like, because we just read the 4 verses. Like, if you read the whole thing, then you get the point of it. Because like it likes the corruption of the earth and everything. Then starts from there. Then Noah becomes.
Because then right after this is the story of Noah.
Yeah.
And then God flooding the earth
Yeah.
because it's every form of flesh has been corrupted.
Yeah, so like it's the corruption of the earth, and Noah gets to be that chosen messianic, like image of like I'm gonna use Noah.
He's like the only person following God at that point.
Yeah, so God uses Noah to save the earth, pretty much.
Will save humanity.
Yeah, and I saw this meme was like, do you think the fish went to the ark? Because they live in the water. So do you think the fish are like, hey, we're here too? Or just like, oh, you're going to flood it, then we're just going to be in the water anyways. Like 70% of your body's water. Why do you need to drink more? It's just like, well, we just stay in the water. So I know that was a little bit of a tangent that I didn't have to go on, but it was fun in my head. And then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever. His flesh, for his flesh, his days shall be 120 years old. So that's like a big... Like,
I think God is cutting down our time on earth to give us less time to mess up, because up until this point,
pretty much, yes.
people are having hundreds of years and they're just messing up left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, maybe we should cut this down a little bit and
Yeah,
not give you guys as much time.
I see this with Riley when he has a joke, when it's funny, the more time you give him to make it funny, it just messes it up. Like God is just looking down on us like, maybe you guys shouldn't live that long, because if you do, you just end up
Because then
like,
there's so much sin and corruption.
Yeah.
Because
And that was like an interesting, because God's like, my spirit shall not abide in man. Like that's, I don't know. If
well,
you guys have any
he said,
thoughts.
my spirit will not abide with men forever.
Yeah. So
Not just.
So could I say then, you guys can agree or not agree like you always do. Could you say then that the intention was for man to live forever?
I think in the garden it probably was.
Okay.
Because what was the other tree? There was the tree of good and evil. What was the other one? Do you know what it was?
Tree of chickens? Like KFC?
No, it was not.
Is that all you think about is chicken?
Oh, yeah. Sandy just told me that it was eternal life.
Oh, why didn't he say it in the mic?
Ask him. He's right there.
Why?
Here, say it in the mic, Xander.
The tree of eternal life.
Oh yeah, we
He's
finally
still
got-
alive.
He's still here. He's always here. If you guys never hear him, people are like, I didn't hear his sound. It's like he's just
It's like with our group chat. He's
Yeah.
there. He knows what's going on.
he's there, but he's not there.
He's a lurker.
Yeah, he's just in the shadows. But that's like, this is like the disappointment of like, because like God was, when Adam like had his moment with his wife.
When they sinned for the first time.
Yeah, had his moment with his wife when they sinned. Like, God wasn't like, oh, why? He wanted to be closer to him, but like,
Well, if you look in Genesis, God says we like have to kick Adam and Eve out of the garden because if they eat of the fruit of eternal life, then there's like no escape from sin. Right?
oh man, it's like, don't let him eat it.
Because I think death is almost like our way out of this world, right? Like
Yeah.
it's our way out of sin.
Yeah.
So if we live forever and we can't die, and we're just living in a world of sin forever.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I think like with all those 4 verses, like you people don't if they don't read the whole Genesis, then they don't get to see like what happens next, like what's the whole story. So I just want to point that out. But you can run up. You can take over. You do your boss.
Keep running.
Keep on, King. Slay.
Another verse I wanted to touch on is in 1 Samuel 17 when it talks about Goliath. So it's 1 Samuel 17 verses 4 through 11.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, "And a champion went out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had bronze armor on his legs, and a bronze javelin between his shoulders. Now the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his iron spearhead weighed 600 shekels. And a shield bearer went before him. Then he stood and cried out to the armies of Israel, and said to them, 'Why have you come out to line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And you, the servants of Saul, choose a man for yourself, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us.' And the Philistines said, 'I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together.' Then Saul and all Israel heard the words of the Philistines, and they were dismayed and greatly afraid." So it says that Goliath, up in verse 4, was 6 cubits. And
What is that?
a cubit, if you look on Google, according to Google, a cubit is 21 inches. So that would make Goliath about 6'5" or 5 foot. Wow, I'm struggling here. 10'5".
10 foot?
Yeah, and I think
Goodness gracious, dude.
But what if they were like smaller dudes back then, and they're
What's your obsession with smaller dudes?
they're so
It's because
funny.
Mike's his idol, so he's got to bring it.
So the cubit is from the tip of your elbow, which is your weenus, to the tip of your middle finger. So usually,
So you're saying all the Israelites were like midgets?
no, usually that's about, I think for me, when I measured it, it was like 18 inches. But I've heard people say that the average height for someone back then was like 5'5", 5'7", something like that. Like small
So like
Feston's
Mike,
height.
like Mike.
Yeah,
Mike
Feston
and Feston.
But they could still have 18 inches, 20 inches, cubits. I don't
Huh?
know. That's just a thought.
18 inches cubit? Does that...
Like they could have had like
If they're all midgets,
they could have had like longer arms or something
Shorter.
or shorter. Yeah.
Dude,
So,
but
yeah.
imagine like, if I beat you, you're going to have to come work for me. We should start doing that. Like if you play a game, if you lose, you get to wash my car.
something I think is
Yeah.
really cool about this story, though, is, if Goliath is a giant, which I believe he was, and he's supposed to be, bigger, stronger, faster than the Israelites, but God still prevails over the the evil. Like Goliath was an offspring of the Watchers, of the fallen angels, right?
The Watchers. Riley wanted to go see that movie. Nobody wanted to go with him. I wanted to, but he never wanted to go with me. He wanted someone else special.
Ooh la la.
It's Isaiah.
That's cute.
It's
Anyway, going back to Samuel, I think it's really cool because it's saying showing you that God is bigger even than
Bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah, he's bigger than all these giants, right? The angels come down, they mess up, they defile the land, and they have offspring, right? That isn't made in the image of God, these giants.
Mhm.
And they're kind of scary looking, right? Like, I mean, I would be pretty terrified if, like, really, like a 10-foot.
Sometimes I'm terrified looking at you.
Oh, that's great. Imagine if I was 10 feet tall.
I can't imagine.
But I think it's cool because then you have David, right? The story of David, and he, like this little skinny kid, comes up and he's able to kill
It's
this
like
giant.
Carter beating you. Or Taj beating Riley.
That's a nice way of putting it.
I want to say this now.
I don't know. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, I agree with Isaiah. I think Goliath was 9 to 10 feet tall, but I'm just saying that's another view where some people think he was only like 6'8", but
It's like Ethan.
yeah, that's still tall. But I don't know if it's necessarily the height difference with the Nephilim or the giants that's a part of it, but more so it's like their creation and something that is spiritual. That's because we're physical, but then there's a mixture of the
It's
physical
like
and the spiritual that God
Well, it's like
did in
they're like
head.
almost like a human-like being that's not created in the image of God.
Yeah, and they, like what Isaiah said, they could be smarter, they could have more knowledge, they could be like stronger, stuff like that. Because then,
So they're giants then.
yeah, kind of like that. But I don't think, like, what if there was Nephilim who were kind of just
I think
normal size?
I think there is a
people?
possibility. I think
I love how everything for you is just like, it has to come back to midgets and everything short.
you listen to Blurry Creatures. They're really obsessed with small people. So
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think
something I want to touch on really quick, kind of what Riley was saying.
don't touch on it real quick. Like, take your
Okay.
time.
So I am kind of the belief that like the demigods, right? So you would like Greek mythology, right?
Like Maui
Sure.
from Moana.
I mean that's what you want to talk about. But I'm in my head I think more of like the Greek gods, like Hercules, or I think they could have been real to some extent, and maybe they were the
Just
Nephilim.
giants, yeah.
Well, I'm saying maybe they weren't even giants. Maybe they looked. They could have been Riley's height, right? They could have been like
I doubt it.
they could have been normal height, but they were just faster and stronger and were more.
So they just the normal height like me, faster and stronger. Like, you don't see my strength until I show it.
No, but
You
I'm
don't
saying,
see how
like-
fast I am until I race you. I like where you're going.
I'm
with
saying
this.
I think the demigods of old mythology could have been Nephilim. That's all I'm saying.
That's all you're saying.
Because if you look at mythology, right, the demigods are the outcome of when their gods, like Zeus, right, comes down, has sex with a woman, has a kid. It seems very similar to the angels coming down and doing the exact same thing.
I see your point.
So I think it could
Yeah, I agree.
it could be kind of the same thing. It's just like the Greeks, they weren't reading the Bible. They had their own mythologies, and I think that their mythology could line up with the Bible. They're just interpreting it differently and thinking that these angels that are coming down are actually gods.
Interesting. So let's get back to your notes, because I don't think you're done with your notes. Are you? Have you exhausted your notes?
A lot of them.
I mean, if you have more to say, this is your time to shine,
Well,
dude.
How about Sandra? Do you have any questions? Anything that you're?
Yeah.
I have a question about like towards the end. Are we there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so like Riley was saying, how it's not like giants, angels, like in like the Book of Enoch. It's not exactly in the Bible because it's not like
It doesn't pertain to your faith.
it doesn't like it's not really adding up to the gospel in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But how does this like all this extra knowledge affect your view of God?
I think it increases it almost, because it's like, even though everything is all messed up and like, the world's being messed up because angels are falling, it's not just us humans that are sinning now, it's the angels, but God is still big enough to be like, I'm still in control. It doesn't matter that, the earth's being defiled and that now there's giants walking everywhere, and I don't know. I think in my head it like makes God bigger.
Okay.
I think it speaks to the need of a savior. Like
I
all
agree.
these all these stories are in the Bible. I think because they just to show us that we need saving. Like
Yeah.
because at this point, like for God to say, "Well, I would let you live forever," but actually, no. I'll give you 120. So you don't destroy yourself. This is like a loving, like as I was saying, like shows how strong, smarter, and like faster God is, but it's showing how loving he is. Like he could have just wiped us off and created a new like.
Right, like he didn't have to save Noah. He could
Yeah,
have
he
just
didn't- yeah, he
could have
could
just
have
killed
just said,
everybody and said,
I'll just wipe out everyone and then be like, I'll just walk again, create everything from the beginning. But it's like I'm gonna like send my son like from the like.
like he
there's-
loves us enough to work with us.
Yeah, like
And-
he loves us enough to work with us, and like he gives us all these like ways of like.
And imagine the kind of patience he has to have. Like,
I mean, sometimes I'm like,
Respect God, honestly.
like sometimes I look at my life, I'm like, I have patience, but
but it's not just for
sometimes
one
I don't
person.
have
It's like
patience.
for everybody that's ever lived and ever
yeah,
will live.
like imagine like sometimes I run out of patience just hang out with Riley. Imagine if there's like 10 Rileys that I have.
way more than 10, like millions of Rileys.
Like just
Be a
speaks
good
to, like-
world.
just speaks to like the need of like how like corrupt, how
Like
like
without a savior, we're just
yeah, like how we like have this longing to just sin. Like these guys were up there, like they had it good. Like, oh, look at those humans. I want to go have what they have. It's like we have this longing to just want what other people have. We have all this longing to just last like for what other people have. Like sometimes we look out on lives and God is like blessed other people. It's like, oh man, I wish I had Isaiah's laptop. Then my laptop wouldn't be as slow. Oh, I wish I had Riley's hat. Oh, I wish Zach gave me one of those seaworthy shipped like Maui Hawaii shirts, but he gave it to Riley. He didn't choose me. Like sometimes it's just like we want all these things that other people have, and that leads us to sin. But like God's like, I still love you, and I'm still gonna save you. Like there's now with like Jesus coming down, it's like there's that way through Christ that we could be reconnected to God. And you see all these like times God has been disappointed in humanity. He doesn't just give up on us. It's like, oh, let me save them again. Oh, again. Oh, again. It's like hang out with kids sometimes. Like I love hanging out with kids, but like sometimes they fall down. You pick them up, you put them on it like, hey, don't do that again. You know what they do again? They do the same thing you just taught them not to do. It's like, why?
that's like the Israelites. Like,
Yeah,
all
it's
the
like
time.
it's just like Israelites, just like me, it's just like Riley, it's just like Isaiah. I don't know about Xander. Yeah, maybe Xander. I just wanted him to speak. Like, it speaks to the like for us, like how broken and how sinful we are as humans, and how like loving and merciful and gracious God is.
I think another interesting thing that Genesis 6 does kind of bring up is that there is 2 falls, right, of angels that fall. Because you have the ones with Satan, right, which happens either before the garden or maybe it happens like when he tempts Eve. I don't know. But then you have the fall in Genesis 6. So does that mean that they can just not necessarily leave, but they can sin whenever, right? So is there like angels right now that are, I don't know.
Yeah, still
Like-
still rebelling.
Mm-hmm. Because
I don't know.
if there's more than one fall, does that mean that it can still happen to this day?
I think so.
Or is it not more than one fall, but these angels were already fallen and then they're like, "Oh, let's just go do this."
I think that could be a possibility.
But or do you think
In-
this is a fall?
I think it is a fall. In the book of Enoch, at the very beginning, like literally verse 1, it talks about the Watchers, which was a classification of angel,
Yeah.
and they were like appointed by God to watch the earth. That's what.
like to rule over
kind of-
some
In a
portions
way,
of it?
like they're watching the earth, and they're at this point. It starts off with them being, working under God and not being fallen angels,
Yeah.
and then they get tempted by lust and pride and wanting what other people have, and thinking they can take it,
Mm.
and then
they wanted like to just rule, and then they're like, what if we make a hybrid so that he has our powers and like the humanity that God gave them. So
And then I think an
would be
interesting
smarter.
thing is it says that God casts them in chains and puts them in hell, like right there and then, like right afterwards, which he doesn't do to Satan. Which
Yeah.
I think is interesting.
Honestly, there's so much crazy.
Go
I
was talking to my dad, and the reason I think that he does that to the Watchers, and he like puts them in hell right away, right? He's not like with Satan. He's kind of like, okay, I'll let you roam around and do what you're doing, but I think the Watchers, they corrupted God's creation in a different way than Satan did, right? Like they're trying to make men in their own image, in a way. Satan didn't try and do that. He brought sin, like, you know, he tempted Eve, but he didn't try and create a thing in his own image. He didn't try and be
Thing.
the thing.
From is that from what superhero franchise is that? The Thing.
Huh?
The Thing. Is that a superhero or villain? The Thing. Never mind.
Is this a Malawian thing?
Are you okay, Feston?
Ooh.
Sound effect. Is that the first time we use a sound effect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
What other ones do we have?
Okay. I'll just do
wait.
two.
Do the. Yeah. Wait. Let me tell my joke. What group of people never get angry?
Nomads.
Nomads.
Oh boy.
All right. Let's get back to Isaiah.
Do you have anyone have any questions, any thoughts, anything to add?
So I think I would just love to stress the importance and like the essence of this is not to say if you know Genesis 6, like if you know about the Nephilim, all these giants and all these beings, then you're like,
I'm just some dude on the internet. Like I would very
you're on the
much.
internet.
What are you on?
Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah. So like I think
No, but I think go do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Go look into it yourself and come to your own conclusions. Like that's what I did. That's what I didn't listen to one podcast and then believe these things. You have to read your Bible.
Yeah.
See what other people think. Look at all the other opinions.
Look at the text. Look, people who you trust, like people whose teachings line up with the Bible.
Find sources that you agree with.
Yeah.
Also, just a little disclaimer: we're not experts on all the things that we
No,
talk about.
definitely
We're never
not.
Definitely
experts
not.
on anything we talk about. But I think these are like important conversations for us to have as young men of God, but as also just like people in general. Like I think, like Genesis 6, like Tim Alberino said at some point it was like the most searched word on like the internet at some point. If you were to go to like Google Trends,
Oh, Nephilim.
no, like just Genesis 6,
Oh,
like
okay.
the whole point. Yeah, the Nephilim too. But like now we don't talk about all these things that like the Bible talks about. We just talk about other things. We just like we discuss these things and we're like, well, they don't pertain to my salvation, so I'm not gonna discuss them. I think it's just cool to talk about them, have conversations about them. We're not experts. You guys can do your own research, but this doesn't affect your salvation. So if you don't want to, don't. Like we're not saying you should look into this.
We're not trying to force you
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
believe in giants or
Yeah.
Nephilim or any of this
We're
stuff.
not trying to convince you either.
We're just giving you our opinions
Yeah.
of what we think these things mean.
Opinions. All right. So Xander, anything?
No, that was good.
Oh, do you hear that? He said it all was good.
He's good.
No, he said it was good.
I'm
what he
glad,
said.
I'm glad it's good.
Yeah. Riley, final thoughts?
Well, in Blurry Creatures, that me and Isaiah always listen to, and now we got Festin on one episode.
I only listened to that.
That's
so I
our.
could-
That's
yeah.
that's personally that's my dream guest to have on this podcast. at
Feston?
some point. No, not you.
yeah! I'm already
Blurry
hearing
creatures.
it.
Blurry creatures.
Isaiah's living the dream.
Oh,
But,
you know what you need to do?
Hmm.
Since we didn't record the prosperity gospel, I was gonna say you need to name it and claim it.
Well, we'll do that. We'll do that one.
This is gonna come out after.
This
the
is coming out
prosperity
after
one.
prosperity gospel.
Yeah, but I'm saying like you need to like write down like Blurry Creatures guest on my podcast every
Well, I can
morning.
just- I can just-
Affirmations,
I'll
dude.
email. I can,
Call
wait,
it into action.
Feston, if I email them and they say yes, are we doing it?
DM them,
Dude, yeah, if
Okay.
they say yeah.
I'll email them
Okay.
like right after this.
DM them, email them,
I will,
whatever. you
I
can.
will spam their social media.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I was trying to say is Nate and Luke, the guys that run it, they always
Nate
say
Yadao?
no.
Oh.
They always say we're just two dummies asking questions and wanting to have these
Okay,
conversations.
maybe
That's what
apply
Riley-
that to you too.
Yeah,
That's-
and,
yeah,
no,
that's
no,
being
and for
Riley.
us,
Yeah.
for us, it's three idiots and Festin
Yeah.
trying to have these conversations because they are important. They don't like supersede Jesus or the gospel or things like that, but things like this, there's people where this is going to grow their faith, and then there's other people where they don't have an interest, and it doesn't add anything to their view of God. Like God has created different people with like ways that they see God differently. Some it's very simple. Some they love to dive into things like this. So it's not right or wrong if you're one way or the other. But yeah, I'm glad we had this. It went a lot better than I thought. Thank you, Isaiah, Festin, Xander, dude, with the
Filipino
words of
Greek
wisdom.
God.
Yeah, this was a fun episode.
Yeah, this is cool.
Filipino Greek God, dude. Run with it. Closing thoughts?
Isaiah?
Listen to Blurry Creatures.
Also, if you know someone with story that you think, I mean, we want to share stories of other people. We just don't want to be the only people talking on here. We want to have guests on. So if you have any recommendations for people we should have,
If you have a good story,
if you have a good story, if you have anyone you know that you think
we should interview. We should talk to.
we should talk to, please hit us up on
DM us on Instagram. Or
DM us on
you can
Instagram.
Personal message us.
Personal message. Isaiah, what's your username?
On what?
On
Instagram.
Instagram.
That's private. You can't.
Isaiah, wait.
We said personal messages.
Don't we have a personal texting through Buzzsprout?
Well, I don't know if people use that.
Well, if
Fan mail.
people know how to stalk and they really want to find Isaiah on Instagram, just go to the Campfire Podcast, go to who we follow, and Isaiah's right there.
Yeah. Xander too. You guys should text
Yeah.
Xander too. Riley, especially Riley loves it, so I don't
Dude,
think
I will
he-
interact with you people. It'll
My
be a good
my
time.
my public Instagram account is Isaiah Estrada 9.
Yeah. You can find us. Tell us who you think we should have on. Give us your opinion. Yeah, we'll take it with a pinch of salt, but give it to us anyway. Yeah, if you have anything, anyone, any story, any inspiration that we need to talk to, we're open to everything and anyone. So please, we're excited to share stories with other people about ourselves too. So yeah, let us know. I think that's me out. I don't know if the other boys are out too, but
Dude, I'm out.
I'm out. You good?
all right.
Peace.
Thanks for
Thank you,
listening.
everyone.
Campfire podcast set with fire like my dad making pizza. Festin, Isaiah, Riley, and Xander talk for 40 minutes. Jesus loves you. Follow our podcast.